What is up, guys? Phaedo82 coming at you with a new series called Rust Cribs, in which we take a look at some of the base designs from the previous week on the US Rustopia server. What we're taking a look at right now is the compound that was put together by the BSB clan, or the Blue Shirt Bandits. They built a compound with a massive footprint that's surrounded by a wall with an outer ledge which prevents or mitigates against ladder raids. Inside the compound there are various structures which ensure that the members at all times have a line of sight on any area inside that inner compound. You'll notice that the bases inside have outer ledges as well, which is again a new building strategy that has popped up in the wake of ladders. So to mitigate against ladder raiding, you'll notice a lot of bases have this design to it. Kind of has sort of an Asian palace vibe to it in some ways, but a lot of bases are using this type of method. What's so impressive about this base design is just the scope of it. The wall outside is stunning. The landscape that they chose to build in is interesting. It has the coast on one side, and it is also flanked by the winter biome, which allows for some interesting geographic elements that actually work in their favor. So just look, guys, at the massive footprint of this compound. It's really stunning to see what groups can do when they work together, and this is an awesome example of what a fortification can look like in Rust. Next up, guys, we're looking at another type of a base here, which doesn't have an outer wall surrounding it, but it has 11 layers of ledges to, again, mitigate against ladders. This is an interesting design, and we're seeing a lot of designs popping up like this. You didn't see designs like this before ladders, but this is sort of what some of the bases are looking like now. It looks like they don't have much for fortifications on the bottom level. They could probably use some more spikes around it, but it's a really interesting design. You'll notice that certain floors are reinforced with the armored building tier. Most likely those are probably more high value parts of the base, and they're probably still working on reinforcing that bottom floor with some more defenses. Up top, they have a bit of an area where the members can group, and what I like so much about this base is just that it's placed in a position that allows them to have a line of sight in a 360 radius around them, so they can really see in all angles. If they have somebody here doing Overwatch, they can see where people are coming from at any point in time. There aren't many mountains, there aren't many hills directly by the base, and there aren't really many rocks either. There's a few, but not so much that they really lose that line of sight. So very interesting design. Next up, guys, we have another compound here surrounded by a wall. This, unlike the other base, is built with a square foundation as opposed to those triangle foundations. So inside that outer wall, we're noticing a lot of usage of spikes, floor spikes here, which are going to hurt anyone who does make their way through that wall. The base on the inside, again, is tiered in that it has those different levels, those different ledges to mitigate against the ladders, and it has sandbags so that members can run out and defend and reinforce their positions if they're under attack. The outer wall surrounding this base is interesting because it has two ledges to ensure that it's even more safe from the ladders and more difficult to get up through. What's also interesting to note about this base is that it's built by a rad town, and then it's also built by the water. So there's a bit of a bottleneck here because people are going to avoid the radiation from the rad town, and they're also probably not going to swim during a raid. So a very interesting choice of geography. And of course, we have people building on monuments. This, you might notice from the World War Rustopia video, is the Globe or the Death Star monument. And you'll notice here that they are starting to reinforce it with a wall. And they have various auxiliary bases around the monument, which we refer to as flank bases. So when people are raiding your base, you want to have these towers surrounding your base so that when people are making their way in there, you can fire at them from different points. You'll notice that even inside the inner courtyard here, there's a lot of windows that look out into the courtyard. As much as you want to defend against people outside the gates of your base, you want to worry about when they get into the courtyard, because they eventually will. So that's a smart building decision. Like with all monuments, they've secured the stairwell which goes up to it, which is an important part. And we'll notice as we pan up here and we look at the top of the monument, this is where probably the main base is, probably where they're securing most of the high-end loot, I would imagine. And they're using the signs here as a way to better access that base. We noticed in the World War Rustopia video that was a bit of a bottleneck, and a way to traverse that in a more efficient manner is to lay signs down. Otherwise, you have to bunny hop up that stairwell. Again, as we zoom out, guys, you can see the massive footprint of this base. It really kind of gives you an idea of the scope of it when you can get a bird's eye view of it, and I think it's really interesting. This base is also in the winter biome, so that gives it some added protection as players will have to dress accordingly. And last but not least, we're taking a look at a smaller scale base here, which again is using the topography to their advantage. They've built also by a rad town and then by the coast, which gives it sort of a natural bottleneck, and it's really interesting use of the terrain. You always want to think about where you're placing your base and how that's going to complement your strategies for defending. This base has used spikes on the bottom layer to help keep people away from the wall, and also is using the tiered system to mitigate against ladder raiding. They have auxiliary building cabinets around the base to prevent people from building in their radius, and then they have some flank bases as well to keep people from easily raiding their base. So guys, let me know what you think of the first edition of Rust Cribs. We're going to do one each week on the US Rustopia server to show off how building methods are evolving and what players are up to. As always, hope you guys enjoy. Phaedo 82, peace.